It started with a simple table in the corner of a Brooklyn coffee shop, the kind of place where dreams usually dissolve into lukewarm espresso and unpaid rent notices. For Samantha Hayes, 25, it was just another late-night shift. Her sneakers pinched her feet, her apron smelled faintly of burnt bacon and sanitizer, and her tips that day barely covered a subway ride home. But then she saw it. A napkin. Not just any napkin, an abandoned, crumpled piece of cheap paper someone had left behind with their empty latte cup. At first it looked like the usual doodles people made while waiting, messy swirls, random lines. But as Sam leaned in to clear the table, her stomach dropped. The lines weren't random. They were deliberate, layered, pulsing with confidence. She froze, tray clutched in her hand, staring at the sketch of a couple dancing under a flood of stars. Her breath caught. This can't be real. She whispered, no way, this looks like a Chagall. Sam wasn't just a waitress. A year ago, she'd been an art history major before dropping out to pay for her father's endless medical bills. She knew Chagall's dreamy lines, the way he painted love like it was half memory, half prayer. And here it was, on a diner napkin. Her coworker Yenna walked by, balancing plates of fries. Sam, you good. You're staring like that thing's a winning lottery ticket. Sam forced a laugh, slipping the napkin into her apron pocket. Yeah, just zoning out. But inside, her heart hammered like a drum. She felt crazy. No one in their right mind would believe a world-famous artist's work could appear on a napkin in a Brooklyn cafe. Yet every instinct screamed this was different. Later that night, after closing, she sat in the break room with the napkin spread carefully on the table, smoothing out its wrinkles with shaking hands. She opened her old sketchbook, flipping through notes she hadn't touched in months. The curves matched. The delicate strokes, the floating figures, it was uncanny. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, raspy from hospital stays, but still full of warmth. Sammy, art finds its way into the strangest places. Don't ignore it when it calls you. She bit her lip. What if this wasn't just a doodle? What if someone had carelessly discarded something priceless? The next day she showed it to her father during visiting hours. He lay propped up in a hospital bed, wires and monitors buzzing softly. His eyes, still sharp despite the frailty of his body, widened the moment he saw it. Sam, where did you get this? She hesitated. At the café. Some guy just left it. I know it sounds impossible, Dad, but... He cut her off, his hand trembling as he traced the lines. This is real. I studied Chagall when I was your age. Look at the layering, the perspective. People can fake a signature, but they can't fake a heartbeat, and this drawing has one. Her chest tightened. If he was right, the napkin in her pocket wasn't just art, it was a fortune. But with fortune came danger. That night she returned to work with the napkin tucked inside a book, terrified of losing it. As she poured coffee for a table of Wall Street types, she caught the eye of a man sitting alone by the window. He was older, in his 50s maybe, wearing a sharp suit but with an air of boredom, like he'd seen it all. When Sam bent to wipe a nearby table, she noticed his gaze drop, not to her, but to the corner of the napkin sticking out of her book. His expression sharpened instantly. He smiled too smoothly. Interesting sketch you've got there, he said casually. His voice was silk over steel. Sam's pulse spiked. She quickly shoved the napkin back inside. It's nothing, just doodles. The man tilted his head, his eyes cold despite his smile. Doodles can be worth millions if they're drawn by the right hand. She forced a polite grin and retreated to the counter, every nerve on fire. Who was he? A collector, a dealer, or worse, someone who knew exactly what she held? When her shift ended, Sam hurried out, clutching her bag tight. The Brooklyn night was damp, the air heavy with the smell of rain on asphalt. She walked fast, her sneakers slapping the sidewalk. Every shadow felt like it was following her. Back in her tiny apartment, she locked the door, double-checked the pane, and spread the napkin on her desk. Her eyes burned from exhaustion, but she couldn't stop staring at it. The figures seemed to move under the lamplight, as if alive. She whispered to herself, if this is real, this changes everything. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk about what you found. Meet me tomorrow, same cafe. Sam's blood ran cold. She hadn't told anyone except her father. Her hands shook as she dropped the phone. She didn't know it yet, but the napkin had already dragged her into a dangerous world of art fraud, billionaires, and betrayal. And it was only the beginning. Because when a waitress stumbles onto a sketch worth millions, she doesn't just hold paper. She holds secrets powerful enough to destroy empires. The napkin lay on Sam's desk all night, illuminated by the dim glow of a cheap desk lamp. She didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined strangers clawing at her door, ready to rip it from her hands. By morning, her thoughts were fractured. Was she insane to think this napkin could be worth millions? Or worse, was she sane and now holding something people would kill for? Her phone buzzed with another unknown message. Don't ignore me. You don't know what you've stumbled onto. Sam shoved the phone into her apron pocket, ignoring the chill that ran through her. She had to get through her shift. Rent was due. Her dad's hospital called about another overdue bill, and she couldn't afford to spiral. Not yet. The cafe was bustling. Students hunched over laptops. An older couple argued softly over scones, and the espresso machine shrieked like a wounded animal. Sam tried to focus, scribbling orders on her pad, forcing her hands not to shake. And then her heart sank. At the corner table sat the same man from last night, the sharp suit, the quiet smirk, the eyes that watched her too closely. He raised his coffee cup slightly, a mock toast. Sam kept her distance, pretending not to notice, but every nerve screamed his presence. By the afternoon lull, she couldn't take it anymore. She slipped into the back office where the manager's desk overflowed with receipts and stale bagels. From her bag, she pulled the napkin, unfolded it carefully, and studied the lines again. Her father's words echoed, "People can fake a signature, but they can't fake a heartbeat." Sam grabbed her old sketchbook and began comparing. Every swirl of ink carried a rhythm, a dance only true masters possessed. This wasn't random. It was art, real art. Still staring at that thing, Sam jumped, nearly crumpling the napkin. Jenna leaned against the doorway, chewing gum, her blonde ponytail swaying. "It's just I don't know," Sam muttered. "Feels important." Jenna squinted. "Important like Celatanive important, or important like you think it's actual art?" "Like Celatanive important, or important like you think it's actual art?" Sam didn't answer. Jenna raised an eyebrow. "Girl, if you've got something valuable, don't be stupid. People out there would eat you alive for it." She popped her gum, shrugged, and left. Sam sat frozen. That was the truth. People would eat her alive. Her phone buzzed again. This time the message was more direct. "Meet me tonight. Bring the napkin. You'll understand." She slammed the phone down, panic clawing up her throat. Who is this? The man from the cafe? Someone worse? Her shift dragged on. Every slam of a cup, every hiss of the espresso machine made her flinch. She spilled a cappuccino on a customer's lap. Her boss barked at her, threatening to cut her hours. By closing, she felt like a ghost, hollowed out by fear and exhaustion. Back home, she paced her tiny apartment, clutching the napkin. She thought about her father, tubes strapped to his frail body, bills piling on the kitchen counter. She thought about the years of killing her own dreams to keep him alive. If this napkin was real, it could change everything. But if she trusted the wrong person, it could destroy her. She dialed her father's hospital room. His weak voice answered, warm even through static. "Sammy, you okay, kiddo?" She swallowed hard. "Dad, I think I found something big." He coughed, the sound rattling. "Then listen to me. Don't let it go without proof. Don't let anyone scare you into silence. You hear me?" Her chest ached. "Yeah, Dad, I hear you." "Huh?" When the call ended, she sat down, pulling her laptop onto her knees. She began searching. Shaggle's lost works, auction scandals, missing sketches. Hours passed, and then there it was. A small article buried in an old art journal. Rumors persist that several sketches by Chagall vanished in the 1980s, possibly stolen during private exhibitions. Her stomach dropped, the style matched exactly. This napkin could be one of them. But before she could celebrate, her laptop screen went black. Her hands fumbled at the keyboard, nothing, just dead. Then out of the silence her phone buzzed. A new message. Stop digging or you'll regret it. She bolted upright, heart slamming against her ribs. Someone was watching her. She rushed to the window, peeking through blinds. The Brooklyn street below was dark, littered with trash and flickering street lights. A black car idled at the curb. She swore she saw movement inside. Her phone buzzed again. You can't protect it alone. Tomorrow bring the napkin to the gallery on the 5th. Ask for Vanessa Clark. The name was unfamiliar, but the chill it carried was real. Whoever Vanessa was, she'd just been handed Sam's future, or her funeral. Sam sank onto the bed, clutching the napkin like a lifeline. Her world was collapsing into shadows and secrets, and there was no going back. She whispered into the quiet room, "What have I got myself into?" Outside, the black car pulled away, but Sam didn't notice the silhouette in the back seat, the man from the café, watching with a smile that promised nothing good. And somewhere in Manhattan, Vanessa Clark was waiting, already preparing the sweetest betrayal Sam would never see coming. Morning sunlight leaked through thin blinds, painting stripes across Sam's cluttered apartment. She hadn't slept. The napkin sat on her desk like a ticking bomb, daring her to make a move. By noon, she was back at the cafe, apron tied, hair pulled into a messy bun, but she wasn't working. Today she was waiting for Vanessa Clark. The name had echoed in her head all night. The message had been blunt: bring the napkin, ask for Vanessa Clark. Whoever Vanessa was, she had power. The bell above the cafe door jangled, and walked a woman who didn't belong in Brooklyn's chip-tile world. She wore a tailored navy dress, heels that clicked against the floor, and a sleek bob haircut that framed sharp cheekbones. Her presence turned heads instantly. She scanned the cafe like she owned it. Her eyes landed on Sam. She smiled. "You must be Samantha Hayes." Sam stiffened. "How do you know my name?" Vanessa slid gracefully into the booth across from her. "Because people are talking, and because I make it my job to know things. May I?" She gestured toward Sam's bag. Sam's hand instinctively tightened on the strap. "Depends. Who are you?" "I'm a curator at the Metropolitan," Vanessa said smoothly, "specializing in lost and recovered works." Someone mentioned a waitress with an eye for art and a napkin. Her smile whitened, dazzling but cold. I had to see it for myself. Sam's throat was dry. "If you're with the museum, then you know if it's real." Vanessa leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I can tell you more than that. I can protect you. Pieces like this, if it's authentic, are worth millions, but they also attract vultures. You're young, inexperienced. They'll eat you alive. With me, you'll be safe." For the first time in days, Sam felt a flicker of relief. Someone who understood, someone who believed her. Hesitantly, she slid the folded napkin across the table. Vanessa handled it like a surgeon, slipping on silk gloves from her purse. She examined the lines, the curves, the faint signature tucked near the edge. Her eyes gleamed. "This is extraordinary," she whispered. "Do you know what you have?" Sam lined in, whispering back, "So it's real." Vanessa's pause was deliberate. Finally, she smiled again, softer this time. "It could be. I'll need to run proper tests, paper dating, ink analysis. If it passes, Samantha, your life changes overnight." Sam's chest tightened. "My dad's sick. He needs surgery. If this can pay for." Vanessa interrupted gently. "Then let me help. Trust me." Sam exhaled, the tension at her shoulders melting. After days of paranoia, someone was finally on her side. But outside the cafe window, the man in the sharp suit stood half hidden in the reflection of a shop across the street, watching, his phone pressed to his ear. Inside, Vanessa folded the napkin neatly, tucking it into a leather portfolio. I'll have results for you within a week. Stay quiet. Don't show anyone else. Do you understand? Sam nodded. I thank you. Vanessa touched her hand briefly, her grip cool and firm. You did the right thing. The next few days crawled. Sam floated through shifts on autopilot, waiting for Vanessa's call. Jenna teased her about being mysterious, but Sam reflected with half-smiles. Inside, anxiety chewed her raw. Finally, the phone buzzed. Vanessa's voice was calm, almost too calm. Samantha, I have results. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? Sam's heart paused. We'll talk in person. The Metropolitan Museum towered above her the next day, marble steps gleaming in the cold light. Sam felt out of place in her thrift store coat and scuffed boots, climbing the same stairs tourists swarmed every day. Inside, Vanessa met her in a sleek glass office overlooking Central Park. On her desk sat the leather portfolio. Sam's eyes locked onto it. Well, what did the test say? Vanessa's expression was unreadable. She slid the portfolio across the desk. Sam's hands trembled as she opened it. The napkin was inside, but stamped across the official report beside it were 3 words in bold red letters. Authenticity, fake. Sam's stomach dropped. What? Vanessa's voice was clinical now, stripped of warmth. I'm sorry. The paper date's too recent. The ink composition doesn't match. It's a clever imitation, but worthless. Sam shook her head violently. No, that can't be right. I know what I saw. My dad. Vanessa cut her off, her smile sympathetic but hollow. Sometimes our hearts trick us. I understand your disappointment, but it's better to know now than to get hurt later. Sam's eyes burned. All the hope she had carried collapsed into dust. The surgery her dad needed, the escape she had dreamed of, it was gone. She staggered out of the office, napkin clutched to her chest, tears blurring the polished hallways. She had trusted Vanessa. She had believed. Behind her, Vanessa watched from the window as Sam disappeared into the crowd. She picked up her phone. It's done, she said coldly. She believes it's worthless. On the other end of the line, Richard Calloway's voice purred. Good, keep her quiet. The less noise, the better. Vanessa's lips curled into a thin smile. She won't be a problem. But what neither of them knew was that Sam's disappointment wouldn't last forever, because Ethan Miller, a journalist hungry for truth, had been watching, and he was about to offer her a reason to fight again. The city felt colder than usual, like Manhattan had decided she'd had enough hope for the week. Sam took the subway home in a daze, the museum's marble still ghosting her skin. Authenticity, fate, the words flashed every time she blinked. She gripped the leather portfolio to her chest the way a child holds a stuffed animal on a turbulent flight, too tight, as if pressure alone could keep the plane in the air. Her apartment smelled faintly of coffee and rain. She set the napkin on her desk and just stared, hating it for making her believe. Outside, tires hissed on wet asphalt. Somewhere, a siren wailed and faded. She opened a window for air and felt the city's damp breath on her face. Her phone vibrated on the table. Unknown number. Who is this? Sam answered, voice flat. Ethan Miller, the voice said, calm, quick, a little breathless. I'm a reporter, and you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life. Okay, she sighed, add it to the pile. I'm serious, he hesitated. You met with Vanessa Clark today. Her fingers tightened. How do you know that? Because the only people who called it fake that fast would be people who need it to be fake. He let the sentence hang. Can we talk? Public place. 15 minutes. I'll explain. I'm not walking into some stranger's trap. I wouldn't either, he said. Blue Anchor bar, booth in the back. I'll put my phone and wallet on the table the whole time. She almost hung up, but something in his tone, no perfume, no marble, sounded like gravity. 15 minutes, she said, and hung up. The Blue Anchor was loud enough to drown a confession. Exposed brick, neon that tried too hard, hockey game on mute. Ethan said in a back booth, phone and wallet open on the table like a performed vulnerability. Late 20s, maybe, hair that looked like it argued with a comb in one. He stood as she approached. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I didn't say I'd stay." "Fair." He slid a coaster toward her. "Ginger ale. I don't drink when I work." She eyed him. "You said I'm making a mistake." "You trusted Vanessa," he said it gently. "That's the mistake." Sam's laugh had no humor in it. "She works at the Met." "So do a lot of people who like power." He reached into his bag slowly, telegraphing every motion, and pulled out a manila folder. "I've been digging into Richard Calloway. He's got a habit of manufacturing scarcity. Lose a piece here, bury a providence there, then discover it under his control. Values spike. He profits in both directions." I don't have a piece," she said. "I have a napkin and a broken heart." "You have a working theory," Ethan said, "and a chain of custody problem. Did you ever hold that napkin out of Vanessa's sight once you gave it to her?" Her silence was its own answer. "Right," he said. "Here." He slid a photocopy across the table. "That's the lab report template the Met uses for materials analysis. Compare it to the one Vanessa showed you." Sam scanned the sheets. The fonts were the same, the layout nearly identical. But then the small stuff began to itch. The wrong department code, a barcode string that didn't match the lab's format, a signature block with a printed name, and no lab tech ID. "This could be fake," she said. "It could," he agreed. "Also ink analysis. They can be fast, but not 24 hours fast, not for a third-party intake that skipped proper accession. And the watermark on your report, that lab moved to a new seal last fall." He tapped the page. Old seal. Maybe I'm just seeing what I want," she said, voice brittle. "Maybe," he said softly. "Or maybe someone needs you to shut up so a bitter crime stays quiet." He pulled out his phone, scrolled, and turned it so she could see. A grainy telephoto shot. Vanessa on a sidewalk, leaning into a black Escalade, talking to a man she recognized instantly. The suit, the smile, the weaponized boredom. "The guy from the café," she whispered. "Richard Calloway," Ethan said. "He funds research at half the museums in this city, including the Met," she finished, a nauseous heat rising through her. Ethan tucked the phone away. "Look, I know how I sound, conspiracy board on a string budget, but I've been on Calloway for a year. He sets fires, then charges for the water." "Why me?" "Because you showed up with a match he doesn't control." She stared at the table. A gummy ring from a beer glass clung to the wood like a bruise. "If this is real," she said, "and I'm not saying it is, I can't afford a lawyer or a security detail. I can't even afford a new pair of shoes." "You don't need a lawyer tonight," Ethan said. "You need proof, independent verification, a lab that doesn't owe Calloway anything. I can get you one quietly." "Why help me?" "I like stories where the villain loses," he said. "And because you looked at something everyone else would have thrown away and you saw it, that matters." Something in her chest unnoted a millimeter. "What do you need?" "A clean photo set, macro shots of the strokes, paper fibers if we can without damaging it, chain of custody documented, and permission to keep you off the radar until we know more." She laughed again, softer. "I don't think I'm on any radar." Ethan's gaze flicked over her shoulder. "You are now, don't turn around. A guy with a bad haircut and a good jacket walked in 2 minutes after you. He hasn't ordered. He's watching our reflections on the TV." "You?" The air thinned. Sam fought the urge to twist in her seat. "What do I do?" "Get up, walk to the bathroom, out the back. I'll settle up and leave 10 minutes later. Meet me 2 blocks down at the bodega with the purple awning." "This is insane." "It is," he said, "but so is the value of a 6-inch square of paper." She slid out of the booth, heart chattering against her ribs, and moved through the bar with studied casual. In the bathroom, she splashed water on her face, then took the side exit into an alley that smelled like rain and warm garbage. She jogged, counted breaths, turned left at the mural of a boxing pigeon, and kept moving until the purple awning appeared like a punchline. Ethan arrived 5 minutes later, carrying 2 plastic bags. He handed her one, duct tape, a mylar document sleeve, silica gel packets, a disposable phone. "We're going to make this boring," he said. "Boring saves lives." They walked. He taught her how to log the napkins handling on a printed chain of custody form. Time, location, initials, even if they were the only ones touching it. He showed her how to slip the napkin into the mylar without smudging the ink, how to tape the sleeve shut and sign across the seam so any tampering would be obvious. "This is overkill," she said, but her hands were steady. "This is an abundance of caution," he said, "also known as the thing Calloway hates." They ducked into a copy shop and made color scans, then printed the chain of custody log twice. He offered the disposable phone. "Only call me on this. Turn it off when you're not using it. Keep your real phone for decoys. If Vanessa reaches out again, smile and nod." "What if she demands the napkin back?" "Ask for her written chain of custody. Ask which lab she'll use. Ask for the intake number in advance. Watch her face." They stepped back onto the sidewalk. Streetlights blinked on one by one, turning the block into a dotted line. For a moment, Sam felt tall enough to meet them. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me yet." He looked past her, eyes narrowing. "We've got a tail again, gray beanie. You see the bus stop reflection." She saw it, a shape stationed in peripheral vision, casual as a lamppost. Ethan smiled like they'd told a joke only they could hear. Time to be extremely boring. "Hell, we go to your dad." "What?" "You said he studied this work. He can tell us things a lab can't, how the lines breathe, where the hand hesitates. We'll document it. The more independent observations we collect, the harder it is to erase you." Emotion hit her like a body check. The hospital's fluorescent light, the slow beep of machines, her father's eyes lighting up at the sight of a pencil. "He's tired," she said. "Then we'll be kind and fast." They took the subway 3 stops in silence. In the window's reflection, the gray beanie held the pole 2 cars back. Sam swallowed, palms slick. In the hospital room, her father looked smaller than she remembered, the bed too big around him. But his eyes, soft, bright, stubborn, found hers and warmed. "Hey, kiddo." "Hey, Dad," she whispered and lifted the sealed sleeve into the light. "We need you." Ethan introduced himself, then opened his notebook. Sam cut the tape, hands precise, and slid the napkin out onto a sterile tray. She watched her father's breath change as the lines came into view, and watched the old teacher surface through the patient. "Look here," he murmured, pointing with a capped pen to a cluster of stars above the dancers. "That taper," he breathes on the line, then commits. Students push, masters lane, and this, the weight shifts in the wrist. He looked up. "I can't say it's Chagall, but I can say the person who drew this has nothing to prove." Ethan scribbled. Sam blinked fast. The napkin looked different under her father's voice, less like a lottery ticket, more like a person she might know. A soft knock, a nurse poked her head in. "Miss Hayes, there's someone asking for you, says he's a friend." Sam's skin went cold. Ethan's eyes flicked to the door, then to the window. The gray beanie passed in the hall glass like a cloud. Her father squeezed her hand. "Don't let them decide your story." Sam slid the napkin back into its sleeve, signed the tape, and straightened. "Tell him I'll be right out," she said, and felt the floor of her life tilt toward a cliff. Ethan pocketed the chain of custody duplicate till set. "Ready?" "No," she said, and opened the door anyway. The diner was unusually quiet that night, but Claire's pulse was anything but calm. She couldn't shake the memory of the napkin sketch, the one worth millions that had been left behind by the stranger. It had changed the air around her, like stepping into a storm before the first drop of rain. She folded her apron tighter around her waist, trying to bury the unease. Vanessa, of course, hadn't stopped smirking since yesterday's scene. The so-called friend had been sweet in public, even putting her arm around Claire like they were sisters, but Claire could feel the venom dripping just beneath. "You know," Vanessa whispered when no one was listening, "you're lucky I didn't tell the manager you were stealing customer property. Napkins belong to the restaurant." Her voice was sticky sweet, a blade hidden in silk. Claire's hands clenched into fists at her side. "She's not wrong. Technically, the napkin wasn't hers, but the sketch god, that sketch was no ordinary doodle. It was signed with the initials D.A., a name Claire had studied in art history classes, Daniel Ashcroft, the mysterious recluse whose lost works were whispered about in hushed tones. Pieces of his sold for tens of millions at Sotheby's. And she, a broke waitress scraping tips to cover rent, had one stuffed inside a recipe book in her apartment. The tension reached a breaking point when Julian Thorne himself walked in again. The billionaire had an aura that sucked the air out of the room. The other waitresses whispered nervously. The manager straightened his tie 3 times, and Vanessa fixed her lipstick with trembling hands. But Claire, she froze. Julian slid into the same booth as before, this time without his fiancée. Alone, his expression was cool, his jaw tight, his silver watch gleaming under the diner's yellow lights. He ordered coffee black. When Claire brought the cup over, his eyes, piercing gray, unreadable, locked on her. "You kept it, didn't you?" he said quietly. The mug nearly slipped from her fingers. "Kept what?" she asked, her voice dry. "The napkin," he said, "the sketch. Don't play dumb with me." Vanessa, hovering nearby like a hawk, perked up. Her lips curled into a triumphant smile. Claire's heart hammered in her chest. If she admitted it, she risked losing everything, her job, her safety, maybe even her freedom if this was some kind of trap. If she denied it, she risked missing the only chance to know why a billionaire cared. She risked missing the only chance to know why a billionaire cared about a scrap of paper. "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully. Julian's eyes narrowed. He leaned back in the booth, his fingers tapping against the porcelain cup. "You think you understand what you found, but you don't. That drawing doesn't just belong to Ashcraft, it belongs to me. And if you're smart, you'll return it before you get crushed in something far bigger than you." The warning slid down her spine like ice water. Vanessa couldn't resist any more. "She has it," Vanessa blurted, her voice gleeful. "She showed me. She hid it in her apartment. Don't worry, Mr. Thorne, I can take you there. I just want to help." The betrayal sliced deeper than Claire expected. Her cheeks burned. Julian's gaze didn't waver, but his lips pressed into a thin line. "Of course," he murmured. "Always someone willing to sell out for crumbs." Vanessa blinked, startled. "I'm not selling her out. I'm helping you. You could, I don't know, reward me." Julian didn't answer. He stood, smoothing the lapel of his tailored coat, and tossed $100 bill onto the table. "Think carefully, Claire," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "The longer you hold on to that napkin, the more dangerous your life becomes." Then he was gone, leaving Vanessa fuming and Claire trembling. That night, Claire sat in her tiny apartment, the city's neon glow bleeding through the blinds. She pulled out the sketch, laying it gently on the table. The delicate strokes, the unmistakable signature. This was no forgery. It was real. She thought of her father gone too soon, who had spent nights teaching her about art, about brush strokes, about how every line carried intention. He used to tell her, art isn't just about beauty, it's about power. Who controls the story controls the body. Now she understood. She wasn't just holding a drawing. She was holding a story that people with power would kill to control. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You're in over your head, hand it over and maybe you'll walk away. Jay." Her stomach turned. Was it Julian or someone pretending to be him? Either way, the noose was tightening. At that moment, a knock rattled her door. Claire's heart stopped. Midnight. Nobody visited her at midnight. She crept toward the door, her bare feet silent on the worn carpet. She peered through the peephole. Nothing but shadows. Another knock, harder this time. Her phone buzzed again. "We know where you live." She pressed a hand over her mouth to stifle a cry. The napkin sketch, still glowing faintly under the cheap lamplight, seemed to mock her. Worth millions, yes, but what was the price? And who exactly was after her? The billionaire with cold eyes, the fake friend hungry for scraps, or someone far darker lurking in the shadows? Claire backed away from the door, clutching the sketch to her chest. She whispered to herself, voice shaking, "What did I just get myself into?" The pounding on the door stopped suddenly. Silence filled the apartment, heavy and suffocating. Then faintly from the hallway she heard a voice, male, calm, chilling. "She has no idea what she's holding." Claire stumbled back, the words echoing through her skull. Her world had officially tipped into a nightmare. The door clicked shut behind Sam and Ethan, cutting off the fluorescent spill of the hospital corridor. The friend waiting outside hadn't been a friend at all, just a messenger with a blank face and a single sentence, "Mr. Calloway would like his property back." No threats, no raised voice. Somehow that made it worse. They took the stairs, not the elevator. When they reached the street, the night felt weird. Cabs hissed past in sheets of dirty light. The gray beanie tail was gone, or good at being gone. Ethan kept his voice low. "We pivot now, conservative first, then truth." "Truth doesn't pay for my dad's surgery," Sam said, trying to sound tougher than she felt. "It will," he said, like a promise he planned to bully into existence. They walked 3 blocks, then slipped into a narrow storefront with a darkened window and a bell that barely rang. The sign read, "Keller Paper Lab." Inside, the smell was glue and old books, with the comfort of a library that never asks questions it can't answer. A woman in her 60s appeared from behind a light table, silver hair clipped back, readers hanging from a chain. "You're late," she said, "and you brought adrenaline." "Oh, hi, Nora," Ethan said, exhaling. "Independent intake. No names in the log beyond mine. We need materials, dating, fiber ID, and anything that could survive court." Nora's gaze moved to Sam, not to the napkin yet, but to Sam. "You okay?" "I'm holding a landmine on paper," Sam said. "I'd like to know if it's live." "Good," Nora said. "Clarity helps the work." They moved to the bench. Sam signed the chain of custody seam and cut it open. Nora didn't reach for the napkin. She arrived at it, hand steady, voice a metronome of calm. She looked with the unaided eye first, then a loop, then low-angle raking light. "Interesting," Nora murmured. "See the fiber pull here." Someone drew fast, then lifted. Classic breath and commit. Pigment looks like fountain ink, not ballpoint. The paper stock, call it cafe-grade post-war wood pulp, thin, uncoated, cheap. "So not modern?" Sam asked. Nora clicked on a UV source. The room went nightclub blue. Modern pulps fluoresce like a crime scene. "This barely glows," she smiled. "I'd say older than the 80s, maybe much older." Ethan shot Sam a look. Sam didn't breathe. Nora rolled in a small scope and took micrographs. "Ink shows iron gal characteristics with copper contamination. That tracks with mid-century refills. European. The line quality." She paused. "This was not done by a student trying to impress. This was done by a hand that knew it didn't need to." Sam's eyes stung. "Are you saying it's real?" "I'm saying it's not a TikTok special." Nora flipped the napkin with a mylar sheet to protect the surface. "And I'm saying there's graphite on the reverse." Ethan leaned closer, underdrawn. Nora angled the UV again. On the back, faint as a ghost, penciled numbers emerged, then a small stamp Sam had mistaken for grease. Nora calibrated the scope and captured images, her voice suddenly bright with the thrill of the hunt. "Look at that, hidden under oil, a dry stamp from coarse felt, warehouse grade. And those graphite marks, they aren't notes." "What are they?" Sam whispered. "Inventory," Nora said. "This is an internal catalog code. See the pattern? 3 letters, 2 digits, hyphen, 3 digits. The dash is European style. And the stamp, it isn't a museum, it's private storage." Ethan went very still. Calloway uses a web of private storage in Jersey and Luxembourg. His shell archive stamp in-house, no customs trail. Nora raised an eyebrow. "Your villain is sloppy." She zoomed in. "This stamp was once pressed in a different direction, meaning the napkin was stamped twice, once decades ago, once recently. The recent stamp overlays it just enough to fake continuity." Sam pressed her palms to the table to keep from swaying. "2 stamps, why stamp a napkin?" "Because it isn't just a napkin," Nora said. She slid the scope back to the front image. See these 4 tiny dots around the couple's feet? They're registration points like a map. In some studios, especially when artists swapped cafes and sketchbooks, assistants would mark reference geometry to regrid later on canvas. This isn't a throwaway doodle, it's a preparatory study. Ethan's breath hitched. A study for what? Nora toggled the monitor to overlay a gridded template. I can't tell you which composition, but someone intended to scale this. The paper tells a second story. She took another micrograph, then turned to Sam. There's a fiber here that doesn't belong, linen thread, very fine, embedded. Sam frowned, meaning it sat for a long time pressed against linen, like canvas, Nora said, long enough for the fiber to migrate into soft pulp. That only happens when something is tucked and stored tight for years, decades. Sam looked at Ethan. He hit it, she said, voice small. He staged the loss. Nora nodded to the stamp and restamped it recently to claim an unbroken chain, which is the dumbest smart thing I've seen all week. Ethan's phone buzzed. He didn't look. He was staring at the code under Nora's loop. 3 letters, 2 digits hyphen, 3 digits. That's Callaway's old format before they updated it to QR a few years back. His brain was already sprinting. The letters denote the storage facility. The 2 digits are the aisle. The last 3 are the container. Sam swallowed so we can find where the rest is. If the facility still exists, Ethan said, the wolfish grin of a reporter who smells blood. If we can link that code to corporate filings, we can tie storage to shell companies. Nora printed the micrographs and sealed them in an evidence sleeve. You didn't get this from me, she said. If anyone asks, I stamp bookplates for widows and cry over good glue. The bell at the front door gave the smallest cough of a ring. All 3 froze. Nora killed the lights. UV afterglow turned the lab into an aquarium. A silhouette passed the frosted glass, too still, too patient. After a beat, the handle twitched, then nothing. Ethan whispered, sighed, exit. Nora navigated by muscle memory, ushering them through a narrow corridor that opened onto a loading alley. Rain polished the cobblestones to mirror shine. They walked fast without running, shoulders tight, until they turned onto a busier street. Only then did Ethan check his phone. He went pale. Vanessa, he handed it to Sam. A text cool as marble. Sweetheart, you could have saved yourself a week. The napkin is charming, but it's not the real prize. Want to see what your study was scaled into? Aria Gallery. Tonight, private viewing. Sam's stomach flipped. Is this a trap? Yes, Nora and Ethan said together. Sam stared at the napkin's sealed sleeve, the couple dancing under a galaxy of dots. Then we don't walk in like prey, she said. We walk in with fire. Ethan nodded. We record everything. We go wired, and we bring a question she can't spin. What question? Sam asked. The only one that matters, Ethan said. Who paid to make a masterpiece disappear, and why is it about to reappear, right when Callaway needs to cash out? Aria Gallery was the kind of white cube space that made money feel like a cent. A security guard glanced at their invitation, emailed by Vanessa 10 minutes earlier, and waved them in. Inside, donors murmured over canapes as if gossip were a sacrament. Vanessa glided through the room in black silk, a crescent of cold light at her throat. Sam, she cooed, kissing in the air, eyes not warm at all. You brought a friend and a mood. Kit the theater, Ethan said. Show us the painting. Vanessa's smile sharpened. Right this way. In the back room, away from donors, a single canvas waited under museum glass. Sam didn't realize she'd stepped forward until the guard coughed. The composition stunned her so completely that her body moved without permission. There they were, the dancing lovers from the napkin, now expanded into a full, luminous tableau. The stars were no longer mere dots, they were lanterns. A violin drifted across the sky. The colors sang in a language that went straight to the marrow. Sam's throat closed. It's called Night Wedding, Vanessa said, savoring each syllable. Long thought lost, tonight found. Ethan was already taking in the plaque, the Providence card, the wall text. Anonymous private collection, he read. Exported from Europe in the 50s, resurfaced via estate. He looked up. Whose estate? Vanessa's smile did not move. A dear patron who values privacy. Richard Calloway, Sam said, not asking. Vanessa's eyes glittered. If it were, would that change the light on the canvas? It changes the law, Ethan said. Sam forced herself to look away from the painting, toward the border where the stars kissed dark. Why the napkin? She asked quietly. Why leave it in a café? Because some stories need witnesses, Vanessa said, and some witnesses need to be discredited before they learn to speak. Sam's chest tightened. You called it fake to shut me up. I called it fake, Vanessa said, to see who you'd run to. Her gaze slid to Ethan. Hi, Ethan. Ethan didn't blink. Say the rest, Vanessa. She tilted her head, enjoying the stage. The study was stamped into storage decades ago, then how shall I put it, restored into a private archive when certain things became inconvenient. A painting that never officially existed is very easy to move. A study that points to it, that's messy. Better if it vanishes. She looked at Sam with sincere disappointment. She leered at a mirror. You were supposed to hand it over and forget. Sam's voice surprised her by staying steady. I can't forget. Vanessa lined in, whisper close. Then remember this, in 30 minutes the night wedding is going on a jet. It will never be seen again. Unless, she paused, tasting the word, unless you give me the napkin and walk away. Your father's surgery gets scheduled in the morning. A trust fund appears. A new life blooms. You'll never carry plates again. It would have been easier if Vanessa had yelled, if she'd threatened. Mercy, packaged as choice, landed like a knife. Ethan's hand found Sam's elbow and anchor. She's bluffing. Vanessa laughed softly. Am I? She tapped her phone once. Sam's phone buzzed a second later. Approval. St. Vincent's Cardiology, Hayes, Robert, 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. Sam's blood iced. The date, the time, her father's name, real, terrifyingly real. You can't buy the truth, Sam said, voice shaking now. You can purchase silence, Vanessa said, which is more efficient. Sam looked back at the painting and suddenly saw something she'd missed. In the lower right, beneath the violin's shadow, was a tiny pentimento, a change in the composition where an old star had been painted over. The ghost of the old star was still there, faint but defiant, insisting that what once existed mattered. She turned to Ethan. The pentimento, she whispered. It matches the registration points. The napkin proves the underdrawing. It proves this canvas was scaled off that study. We can tie them. Ethan's eyes sparked. The chain of creation beats the chain of custody. Vanessa's smile finally thinned. Don't be a child. Sam squared her shoulders. We're not. She lifted her phone to the glass, recording, narrating for the camera like a lifeline. Preparatory study matches scaled composition. Inventory code on the study aligns with pre-QR storage used by shell entities controlled by Richard Calloway. The painting titled Night Wedding is about to be illegally exported. 2 guards stepped in. Vanessa's voice turned to velvet over razors. Turn that off. Sam held the lens steady. No. The room tightened. For a heartbeat, even the painting seemed to hold its breath. Vanessa exhaled, bored now. Very well, the show is over. She nodded to the guards. Escort our guests out. As a guard reached for Sam's phone, a door at the far end of the room swung open. Another figure entered, tall, severe, familiar in a way that made Sam's stomach drop. The room recalibrated around him like iron filings around a magnet. Richard Calloway himself. He looked at the painting first, then at Sam, then at the sealed sleeve in her bag that he somehow knew existed. The faintest smile ghosted his mouth. Miss Hayes, he said, voice calm enough to move furniture. Miss Hayes, he said, voice calm enough to move furniture. You've been very busy collecting the wrong enemy. Or exactly the right one, Ethan said. Calloway's gaze never left Sam. You think you've discovered a crime. The twist you're about to learn is harder. He gestured at the night wedding. This was never stolen. He let the blade sink in. It was commissioned. The word detonated in the small room. Vanessa went still. Ethan swore under his breath. Sam shook her head. Commissioned by who? Calloway's smile was the end of a sermon by the artist. The restaurant was still buzzing, but for Lily it felt like the whole world had tilted off its axis. The truth Arthur Blackwell had revealed in that quiet, devastating whisper, "She wasn't just your mother, she was the love of my life," echoed in her chest like a slow explosion. Her tray of empty glasses shook in her hands as she stumbled back into the kitchen. Vanessa, with her saccharine smile and wide-eyed folk concern, was already waiting. "Lily, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost," Vanessa said sweetly, her words dipped in syrup. Lily's breath came shallow. He knew my mom. He has her drawing, and he just told me." She couldn't finish. Vanessa's hand shot out, gripping her arm tighter than necessary. "SHHH, don't say anything yet. You don't want everyone hearing this, right? People will think you're crazy." Her words, though calm, sent a chill down Lily's spine. That was the first hint of poison beneath Vanessa's polished exterior. Back in the dining hall, Arthur sat motionless, the napkin with the sketch clutched like a lifeline. His eyes were damp, haunted. Lily wanted answers, but fear and confusion wrapped around her throat. When she finally approached again, her voice cracked. "Why do you have that? Why didn't you ever come find me if you knew her?" Arthur's face hardened. "It's complicated. Your mother made me promise. She didn't want my world touching yours. She wanted you safe." The words gutted her. Safe. She had spent her whole life scraping by, invisible, exhausted, barely making rent. What kind of safety was that? Later, as she sat on an overturned milk crate in the alley behind the restaurant, Vanessa followed, her heels clicking against the wet pavement. She crouched down, looking at Lily with exaggerated empathy. "Sweetheart, men like him always say stuff like that. Promises, lost loves, big secrets, it's all a game. He's a billionaire, Lily. Do you really think he cares about some waitress?" Lily shook her head, torn, but the drawing, "It's my mom's," I'd know her hand anywhere, and the way he looked at it. Vanessa tilted her head, her lips curving in a smirk too quick to notice if you weren't paying attention. "Or maybe you just want it to mean something. Maybe you're so desperate for answers, you'll believe anything." The seed of doubt was planted. When Lily returned to the dining hall, she saw something that made her stomach drop. Vanessa was at Arthur's table, leaning in close, whispering to him with a hand on his arm. Arthur's face was unreadable, but he didn't push her away. Lily's vision blurred with tears. Her ally, if he even was that, was already being pulled into Vanessa's orbit. "She's lying to you," Lily whispered under her breath, but no one heard. The humiliation burned hotter than the sting of betrayal. It wasn't just about money or even the sketch anymore. It was about truth, about her mother, and Vanessa had just declared silent war. That night, as Lily walked home through rain-slicked streets, she replayed every word Arthur had said, every smirk on Vanessa's lips. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it. A photo filled the screen. It was the sketch, the napkin drawing. Only now words were scrolled across it in hurried ink. "You deserve to know the whole truth. Meet me tomorrow. A." Her breath caught. Was it a lifeline or another trap? Rain hammered the city like it was trying to wash it clean, but nothing could wash away the storm inside Lily's chest. She stood at the bus stop, phone clenched so tight her knuckles whitened. The text glowed on her cracked screen. "You deserve to know the whole truth. Meet me tomorrow. A." Arthur. Her gut screamed caution. Vanessa had poisoned her trust, whispering doubts like venom, and Arthur's world, billion-dollar empires, secret promises, hidden art, was nothing like hers. She was a waitress, barely surviving. One wrong step and she'd drown. But the other part of her, the part that remembered her mom's soft laugh, the nights they'd sketched silly doodles on diner napkins, knew she couldn't walk away. She had to meet him. The next afternoon, Lily walked into Riverside Park, raincoat pulled tight, hood up. The Hudson was gray, restless, swollen with the storm. Arthur was waiting under a pavilion, alone, his expensive coat at odds with the wet concrete. When he saw her, something broke in his eyes. "You came," he said softly. Lily crossed her arms. You wanted me to. You said I deserved the truth, so tell me. Arthur pulled the napkin from his pocket, her mother's sketch. It looked even more fragile in the dim light. This isn't just art, he said, it's a map. Your mother drew this the night she left me, the night she chose to protect you instead of running away with me. Every line, it wasn't random, it leads to something she hid. Lily's chest tightened. What do you mean hide? Hide what? Arthur's voice lowered. A second sketch, one no one's ever seen, and if I'm right, it proves everything Vanessa is trying to bury. Before Lily could respond, a shadow moved at the edge of the pavilion. Then another. 3 men in dark coats emerged from the rain, moving with the practiced precision of predators. Arthur stiffened. Vanessa sent them. One of the men stepped forward, his voice calm, dangerous. Hand it over, Mr. Blackwell, the napkin now. Arthur's jaw clenched. He turned slightly, shielding Lily behind him. This has nothing to do with her. Let her go. But the man smirked, said otherwise. Oh, she's part of it now, and trust me, she won't survive if she keeps playing games. Lily's blood ran cold. Arthur pressed the napkin into Lily's hand, whispering so low she almost didn't hear. Run, don't stop, find the address on the back. She glanced down. The napkin now had faint pencil scrolls, numbers barely visible unless you looked close. An address. Her breath caught. Before she could argue, Arthur shoved her toward the edge of the pavilion. Chaos erupted. One of the men lunged. Arthur blocked him, fists cracking against rain-slicked skin. The other 2 gave chase, boots pounding against wet concrete. Lily ran. Her lungs burned, shoes slipping on the soaked path, but adrenaline kept her upright. She clutched the napkin against her chest like it was oxygen. Behind her, shouts echoed, men closing in. She darted down a staircase toward the river, weaving through trees, her heart a war drum in her ears. At the bottom, she nearly collided with Ethan, the journalist. Lily, what the... No time, she gasped, they're coming. Ethan's eyes widened. He grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a side street. They tore through puddles, splashing, lungs screaming, until finally ducking into the back of a bodega. They crouched, soaked and shaking, behind stacks of cardboard boxes. The sound of footsteps thundered past outside, then faded. For a moment, only silence remained. Ethan looked at her, breath ragged. What the hell happened? Lily's hands trembled as she unfolded the napkin. Arthur, he said, it's not just a sketch, it's a map, and he wrote this address. She showed him the faint pencil marks, closer, eyes sharp despite the chaos. That's Midtown storage facility. If he's right, whatever Vanessa's hiding, it's there. Lily shook her head, tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. Arthur, he stayed behind. They'll kill him, Ethan. Ethan's voice softened. That we don't waste his sacrifice. We go after what he wants us to find, and when we have proof, we bring her whole empire down. Oh, Lily's chest heaved. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, the city roaring below. One wrong move and she'd fall forever. But she also felt something else, resolve. Then we don't stop, she whispered, not until the truth is out. Her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. She opened it with trembling hands. A photo filled the screen. Arthur, bloodied but alive, tied to a chair in a dark room. The caption, "You have 24 hours, bring the napkin or he dies." Lily's scream caught in her throat. The napkin shook in her hand. The address stared back at her like destiny. The city never truly slept, but at 2 a.m., Midtown felt like it was holding its breath. Neon lights buzzed, casting tired halos over cracked sidewalks. A drizzle slicked the streets, leaving everything glistening like it had been varnished. Lily adjusted the strap of her damp backpack and tried to steady her breathing. Ethan stood beside her, eyes scanning the empty avenue, his journalist's notebook replaced by a lockpick set he claimed he'd picked up during a summer story on urban explorers. Ahead loomed the storage facility, A nondescript concrete building with steel shutters and a discreet sign, Whitmore Holdings, Inc. "That's it," Lily whispered. "That's it," Ethan said. "Calloway's people think anonymity is invisibility. The problem is I've seen too many ghosts." The service door had a keypad. Ethan knelt, flashlight clenched in his teeth, fingers moving with surprising precision. "I thought you were a reporter," Lily muttered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "I am," Ethan replied around the light, "but journalism teaches you how to slip past locks, some metal, some human." The keypad beeped, the door clicked open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and secrets. Fluorescent tubes flickered reluctantly to life, casting pale light across endless aisles of steel storage units. Each was stamped with a code, 3 letters, 2 digits, dash, 3 digits. Lily's heart lurched. It was the same pattern Nora had decoded from the napkin. "Over there," she whispered, pointing. They hurried down the echoing corridor, sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished concrete. "Unit RLD 07241, the same code scribbled faintly on the napkin. Ethan set to work on the lock, hands steady, eyes sharp. Lily's pulse thundered in her ears. With every second she imagined Calloway's men bursting in, Arthur's bloodied face haunting her phone screen. Finally, the padlock snapped open. The door screeched as it rolled upward. Inside, stacks of crates, wooden, aged, marked with faded shipping stamps. Ethan cracked one open. Inside, wrapped in layers of linen and waxed paper, was a rolled canvas. He unwrapped it carefully, breath catching. When the cloth fell away, Lily gasped. The canvas unfurled to reveal a painting, brilliant, breathtaking, unmistakable. Figures floating, stars bleeding across a night sky, lovers entwined in impossible colors. It was another Ashcroft. "Oh my God," Lily whispered. Ethan's voice was reverent, hushed. "These aren't lost works, they were stolen, hidden." But there was more. Beneath the canvas lay folders, ledgers, receipts, contracts. Ethan's hands trembled as he flipped through them. "Look at this." Calloway didn't just hide them, he insured them twice. He staged thefts, claimed payouts, then hoarded the art in secret. "It's fraud on a scale I can't even—" He trailed off, eyes wild. "This is billions, Lily, billions." Lily's chest tightened. Her father's face flashed in her mind, his frail body hooked to machines. Surgery, recovery, dignity, right here in her hands. But Arthur's photo burned alongside it, bloodied, captured, a pawn in Calloway's game. Suddenly a click echoed behind them, not the click of a lock, the click of a gun. "Hands where I can see them," a voice drawled, cold, familiar. Lily froze. Slowly she turned. Vanessa stood in the doorway, dressed in sleek black, a pistol steady in her manicured hand. Behind her, 2 of Calloway's men flanked the hall. Her smile was cruel. You just couldn't resist, could you, like moths to a flame? Ethan's jaw clenched. You tipped him off. Vanessa tilted her head, mock sweet. "Darling, I work for him. Always have. You think Arthur Blackwell was ever the real power? Please. Calloway owns this story, top to bottom." Lily's throat closed. "Then why not just kill us now?" Vanessa's grin widened. "Because first I want you to see. I want you to understand exactly what you've lost." She stepped forward, gun gleaming under the buzzing fluorescent light. "Burn it," she ordered the men. One of them grabbed a canister from his bag, gasoline. He splashed it across the crates, the air filling with its sharp, suffocating bite. Lily's stomach twisted. No. But Vanessa only smiled wider. Goodbye, history. The man struck a lighter, the flame flaring inches above the soaked wood. Lily's heart pounded. Desperation sparked into fury. She lunged not at the gun, but at the nearest crate, yanking the canvas free before fire could reach it. "Run!" Ethan shouted. Chaos erupted. Vanessa fired. The bullet ricocheted off steel. Ethan shoved over a crate, knocking one of the guards off balance. Flames licked upward as the gasoline caught, heat exploding across the room. Lily clutched the painting, smoke clawing at her lungs, eyes stinging. She barreled toward the side exit, Ethan right behind her. Behind them, Vanessa's furious scream cut through the fire. "You can't outrun us. That art will never see daylight." They burst into the night, coughing, choking, the stolen painting clutched between them. The storage facility roared behind them, flames painting the sky. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had already called it in. Lily collapsed against a lamppost, clutching the canvas to her chest, tears cutting streaks through soot. "Arthur," she whispered. Ethan's hand gripped her shoulder. "We'll save him, but now we've got proof and leverage." She looked down at the painting, its colors shimmering under the streetlight like defiance itself. For the first time, she felt the shift inside her, not a waitress clinging to survival, but a woman carrying a weapon powerful enough to topple an empire. The fire still burned in Lily's lungs hours later, long after she and Ethan had escaped the storage facility. They sat in his cluttered apartment, the stolen painting propped carefully against a wall, wrapped in a blanket like an infant. The sirens still echoed in her ears, but louder than that was Arthur's face on her phone screen, voice raw. Ethan leaned forward, eyes sharp, hands stained with soot. "We don't hide. We make it impossible for them to bury this. We go public tonight." Lily stared at him. "You mean expose Calloway with this?" She pointed to the painting. "With this," Ethan said, "and the ledgers and the scans Nora made, we release it all. Proof that he staged thefts, committed insurance fraud, hoarded art worth billions." Her stomach twisted. "And Arthur, they'll kill him if we don't trade." Ethan's voice softened. "If we bring light fast enough, they'll lose the power to kill. They'll need him alive to spin the story." At dawn, Lily stood in front of a camera Ethan had borrowed from a friend at a small independent news site. Her palms sweated, her voice trembled, but the words poured out like fire. "My name is Lily Hayes. I'm a waitress in Brooklyn. And 2 weeks ago I found a sketch left behind on a napkin. That sketch was my mother's. She died years ago, but her hand still speaks." She held up the napkin, then the stolen canvas, colors glowing in the weak morning light. "This isn't just art, it's evidence. Evidence that billionaire Richard Calloway staged thefts, stole billions through insurance fraud, and hid these works for decades. And when we found the truth, he tried to silence us with fire and with blood." Her voice cracked. "He has Arthur Blackwell, alive but not safe. I don't know if this will save him, but I know the truth can't die with us." Ethan cut the feed, uploading it across platforms with backups ready to scatter the moment one was taken down. By noon, the video had gone viral. Networks picked it up. Hashtags trended. Protesters gathered outside Calloway's Manhattan headquarters. The Metropolitan Museum announced an emergency review of Providence records. Insurance companies froze Calloway's accounts. And still no sign of Arthur. Then came the call. Vanessa's voice slithered through the speakerphone. "Well done, darling. The martyr act suits you, but all you've done is make him more expensive." Lily's jaw tightened. "Where is he?" Vanessa chuckled. "Would you like to know? Here's my offer. Bring me the painting tonight. Alone. You walk away with Arthur alive, and his blood is on your conscience." The line went dead. That night, Lily stood in the gutted skeleton of an old theater, the painting strapped to her back in a weatherproof case. The air smelled of mold and dust. Spotlights flickered weakly from the rafters. Vanessa emerged from the shadows, flanked by Calloway's men. Her heels clicked against the warped stage floor. Arthur was there, tied to a chair, battered but breathing. His eyes found Lily's, filled with both relief and warning. "You came," Vanessa purred. "Of course you did, poor little waitress, so desperate to play the hero." Lily's voice was steady, even as her heart pounded. "You'll never bury this again. The world already knows." Vanessa laughed, cruel and sharp. "The world knows headlines. Headlines fade, but money rewrites memory." She held out her hand, the painting. Lily unstrapped the case. For a breath, she almost faltered, almost handed it over to save Arthur. Then she remembered her father's words, art isn't just beauty, it's power. Who controls the story controls the value. She lifted her chin. No. Vanessa's smile faltered. What? You don't get to control the story anymore, Lily said. She stepped closer, case still in hand. Because I already made sure this isn't the only one. The scans, the records, the ledgers, they're everywhere now. Even if you burn this, you lose. Vanessa's mask cracked, rage flickered in her eyes. You stupid. Before she could finish, Ethan's voice rang out from the balcony above. Drop the gun, Vanessa. The cops are listening. Red and blue lights flared through broken windows. Sirens wailed closer. Calloway's men panicked. Vanessa spun, gun raised. Arthur kicked his chair backward, crashing into her legs. The shot went wild, sparking against metal. Officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Chaos erupted. Vanessa was tackled to the ground, screaming. Calloway's men scattered, only to be pinned by the NYPD. And through it all, Lily held the case tight, breathless, trembling, but unbroken. Days later, Arthur sat in a hospital bed, bruised but alive. He reached for Lily's hand, his voice weak but steady. Your mother would be proud. You gave her art a voice again. Lily's eyes stung. I almost lost everything. But you didn't, Arthur said. You proved that even the smallest person can carry the heaviest truth. News anchors called it the scandal of the decade. Calloway was indicted. Vanessa faced charges of fraud and conspiracy. The painting was secured in a museum vault, its provenance under independent review. And Lily, she went back to the café, not because she had to, but because she chose to. Her father's surgery was scheduled, paid for by public donations from people who had seen her video and believed her story. When she poured coffee for a customer now, she felt taller. She wasn't invisible anymore. One evening, she stood outside the museum, staring up at the glass where the painting she had carried through fire now hung. Visitors crowded inside, admiring it, photographing it, whispering about its history. Lily smiled softly. For the first time in years, the ache in her chest eased. Her mother's hand had reached across decades, not just to Arthur, not just to her, but to the whole world. And Lily,